Samupe, Sampadia, Chimafidi non kotu, era one radio. Samupe, Jumpadia, Chimafidi non kotu, era one radio. Oh, and you come to Asam Pamchima, the Gratumchima, Era one, the Rebel Yumpampua.
Hello, good evening, Era One radio listeners. It's my pleasure coming your way again this evening, the first day of September 2022. Wow. Time really flies that fast. Already we are getting closer to the last quarter of the year.
8 months gone.
Yep, we are in the ninth month already. Well, very soon it's going to be Christmas, and then those who are going to be shopping will be shopping. But I think this year I'm going to put Christmas on hold. Christmas is postponed for me this year because the shopping is too much. Anyway, tonight we're coming your way again with the Divine Connection Show. I'm your host, Charles Boison, and of course, on the other side is my most reverend Pastor Nisaba Robert Akron. Pastor, you are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So last week we began the wisdom personified, the parable of the 10 virgins. And it was so interesting. We thought we were going to give it just a one-time show, but we couldn't finish because we hardly even touched the first 2 or 3 questions. So tonight we thought it wise to bring it back and continue because there was so much apport in that text that we have to glean. So we decided to do another we'll call it part 2 of that show because there's so much to be gleaned in that scripture. All right, as I said earlier on, we're broadcasting from Facebook and YouTube, also Modern Ghana Radio. If you want to call in, the number is still the same, 240-280-2633, and the text to call in is 510-931-0946. All right. So on behalf of my studio manager, Dr. Setutu, and the Era One team, I want to invite you to our program, of course, with the able leadership and giving skills of Pastor Nisaba Akron. Bishop, do you have any regards, greetings, birthdays, anything you want to wish your people?
If anybody is out there celebrating his birthday or his or her birthday today, a big shout out to you. May God cause all your dreams to come to pass. And for those listening, we hope by the end of this segment, you would have learned something you didn't know or haven't thought about. So let's have God do what God does best.
Of course. God will do what he does best. And somebody says, what God cannot do does not exist. Well, it looks as if there's some good news in the air. Is it last week, a few weeks ago, we heard about the student loan that has been a sense of forgiveness for many people, those who make less than a certain amount of money, 125,000 or so. And then Serena Williams won her 2 games. I think she's playing doubles with her sister tonight, and then tomorrow she also plays. I hear in the graveyard that she's trying to, retire. But I don't know how true that is going to be because some of these athletes they retire and they come back, so we don't know whether it's going to be finale or so. Prof, what do you have to say on those 2 current events?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the loan forgiveness. It's one of those interesting anomalies in the US where knowledge seems to be most treasured. Yet, students have to incur these huge bills and debts just to acquire the sort of skills and knowledge in order to contribute to what makes US great. So relieving students of that burden it's a step in the right direction, and I'm all for it.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
somebody
then,
said, okay, let me just ask a quick bit before you come. Somebody was saying that is going to increase the burden of inflation. Do you subscribe to that?
um, in the short run, yes, but at the end of the day, the inflation is going to affect people,
Okay.
and those people are the very beneficiary of what caused it. So just think about it. But the relief,
Okay.
the relief is most welcome. And human beings have shown the knack to overcome any situation, any obstacle. So yes, it may lead to some inflation, but inflation is manageable.
Oh, okay.
But compared to the collective relief that that I think it's worth it.
It's in the long run. Okay, all right. What are you going to comment on, Serena?
Yeah, of course. I'm most proud.
Mm,
The sister is just showing what we are made of.
that's true.
Good stuff in us. Our ability to rise to the occasion. You getting me? And she's been vilified. She's been called names. Anytime she won a game, I remember people would say, "What were people expecting? Women playing against a man, calling."
Wow.
Oh yeah. Serena Williams has been at the receiving end of all kinds of taunts, insults, and what have you. But she's won and she's made us proud.
Mm.
You
Ah,
understand? Uh, Given that she didn't attend these elite tennis schools,
that's
you
right.
understand? Her father trained her and her sister, and look at what they've done.
And even
Uh,
look at her age. I mean, at 40, that's strong. I mean, I don't know how many people can
don't
play.
forget, she won her last tournament, the Australian tournament, when she was pregnant.
Wow.
That girl is tough.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway.
she
Anyway,
is tough.
thanks for the updates. Yeah, at least we are so proud of her. I can't wait to watch what she and her sister Venus brings up tonight. All right, so listeners, going back to our scripture. Well, let me tease you a little bit, and then we'll continue.
C'est mon père, ça me fait bien tiens. Tu me fais dire non kotu, era one radio. C'est mon père, tu me fais bien tiens. Tu me fais dire non kotu, era one radio. Oh, and you pam chuma. Asam pam chuma.
So the English version of this is the jingle is Era One is a good station. If you want good music, good information, every good thing, tune in to Era One and you will have the best. We are broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, and Modern Ghana Radio. Please call a friend to invite a friend to come and watch and contribute to this program. All right, so we started the wisdom personified, the parable of the 10 virgins. And as I always say on this show, Divine Connection, that is why we don't even read too many scriptures to buttress what we are saying. We just take one scripture, one phrase, and that's what we run with because we are trying to apply that to our contemporary time. So, with the permission of the professor in the house, I would go back and read the scriptures so that those who didn't join us last week will have an idea of what we spoke about, and then we'll come to a summary of what we did last week, and then we'll continue with this week's aspect. Is that okay with you, Prof?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So Matthew 25, verses 1 through 13, reading the King James Version, the parable of the 10 virgins. It says, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins." All right. Sorry for the glitch. All right, Matthew 25, 1 to 13. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. 6. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. But go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. 10. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. 13. Watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour when the Son of Man cometh. All right, so Doc, Prof, last week we did a little bit, quite a few areas that I want us to just, as a summary for those who are just joining us, would you just clump together the subject and the stakeholders before we zoom into today's approach?
Well, the subject will be the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because metaphoric language has been used, and we explained what metaphoric language is, specifically because of the word like.
Okay.
Verse 1 says, the kingdom of heaven is likened to 10 virgins who took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. So heaven has been likened to have virgins.
Okay.
And therefore, we said with metaphoric language, you are dealing with a subject that is unknown by using a vehicle that is known to explain the subject that is not known. So since the 10 virgins are the vehicle here being used to explain the subject, which is heaven, that we don't know, because none of us has been to heaven to really know what is there. Heaven, therefore, is the subject.
Okay.
10 virgins who took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom will be the vehicle. So again, now the stakeholders here, of course, the 10 virgins, then the bridegroom. And then maybe the oil sellers, if we could rope them in. But the two major stakeholders are the bridegroom and the 10 virgins. So the question is, what will be the stake of the bridegroom? Of course, he wants the wedding to be a celebratory one. And he expected everybody invited to be there with the necessities required or the accessories required. Of course, the 10 virgins are stakeholders. What will be their stake? They would like to be at the wedding, to witness it, to honor the invitation with everything required, right? But we know that Jesus used this story to tell a bigger story. And the bigger story is his expected return. And therefore, the whole 10 virgins story and everything, you take the incidents, the events, and what have you in it, and you use it to explain how the return of Christ is going to be. And what we need to be doing whilst we await his return.
Wow, whilst we await his return. All right, so you mentioned a few stakeholders already. Are there any more you want us to know? I know whilst you were mentioning the bridegroom, at least there's more stakeholders you want to, bring them in for those who are just joining us for today's teaching.
I said, okay, could one consider the oil sellers?
Okay.
Because they were the ones that the foolish virgins went to. And they were late in coming. And then the door was shut on them. Other than that, for now, I would say these are the stakeholders that readily come to mind.
Oh, okay.
Bridegroom, the 10 virgins, and maybe.
All right. So if we are looking at the ratio, what can we say about the ratio of the wise to foolish?
Well, if you build them into categories, you have 2 categories within the 10 virgins, and it's 5-5.
So 1 to 1.
So the ratio is 1-1, 1 to 1.
All right. Since you have developed an intense appetite or affinity for statistics. Yeah, I know you did history and all the literature and all that stuff, but over the years you have assumed some potential affinity, some strong desire, passionate. You have a strong passion for it, and so if you were to pick at random, what would be the probability of picking a wise virgin from these 10?
Well, it will be 1/2 because divided into 2 groups, right? And of 10, so 1/2, either because 5-5. So it's like how the world is, right? It's like you have a collection of dudes and a collection of smarts.
Okay.
Right? And so the probability of picking a wise virgin is 1/2 because the 2 categories are wise and foolish.
And that's the same as 5/10.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's look at the setting. I think we mentioned a little bit about the setting last week, but then, like I said earlier on, I want us to do a little recap. What will be the setting for this story, this scenario?
Well, the setting was a wedding, but not the kind of wedding one will be used to. This was a wedding without a groom, without a bride. We are talking of only the bridegroom. And of course, those invited, the 10 virgins, as we said last week, the definition of virgin is not only about women. Virgin is simply anybody who has not had any experience of or has not had any sexual experience, right? So this will paint a picture of the 10 virgins coming from similar backgrounds and having almost similar life experiences. So it's like everybody there given a fair chance, right, with everything that went with it. So one couldn't say the background of one qualified them to have the foresight to plan or whatever, right? These 10 virgins, the fact that they were 10 and all were invited and all had lamps and what have you, paints a picture of some amount of fairness and uniformity in their backgrounds. Now, the individuals, therefore, are coming with everything similar or identical backgrounds and everything, but the distinguishing features in them will be what will make or break them per the events of this story.
You mentioned something quite interesting that I want us to revisit about the bride. I mean, you already said that this is a likening to heaven, and then Jesus used to say or continues to say that the bride, his bride is the church.
Yeah.
So can we liken this to the fact that Jesus is the groom and the church of which we are all made up of is the bride? That's why you mentioned that there were not actually specific bride mentioned for this marriage. Is that a deep connotation?
That's a fair suggestion. That's a fair suggestion. You understand? And given the fact that the word virgin does not refer necessarily to women.
Physical, okay. Oh yeah. I think we established that it's not necessarily women because there can be men virgins too, you know.
Yeah.
Although compared to women, men, I mean, almost
our contemporary understanding will say women, but it's not gender specific.
I think when I came to this country, I learned the word through what Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith's, documentary, where Carton said he was shy to say he was a Jermaine. Isn't it that way they use a male virgin? He said he was shy to let people know that he was a virgin, and they called him Jermaine. I said, "Wow, boys are scared of being called their virgins, but boys expect the girls to be virgins. What an irony!"
Yeah.
All right, Pastor, let's revisit the literary conflict. Okay. What are the literary conflicts in this? Because this is quite an experience, the literal aspect. Because I know you are a master of literature, so you just like to play around those terms.
Dr. Boison, this is quite an interesting. For us to really hone in on this question of the literary conflict, we may have to establish the plot here, right?
Okay, all right.
So, in establishing the plot, let's relate or identify the sequence of events. The Bible makes us to understand 10 virgins. I mean, they were invited to a wedding, and then the Bible says 5 prepared. They took oil, and then 5 didn't, and they were described as foolish and wise, respectively. And then they made it to the wedding, but it was as if things were supposed to go haywire. So the bridegroom didn't show up at the expected time. And then the bridegroom began to doze off. Then, at the unexpected hour, midnight, the bridegroom showed up, but at a time when the lamps of everybody, all the 10 virgins had gone out. And then the 5 wise women who had the good sense to bring in additional supply were able to get their lamps back in service, but the other 5 couldn't. So they went to buy, and by the time they got whatever they needed and came back, the bridegroom had already let in the wise women and shut the door. And when they came knocking, he said, "I don't know you." Very interesting. So the question becomes, what, as you rightly said, what is the literary conflict here? Dr. Boison, to answer this question, let's look at what the conflict is. Conflict is the opposition of forces, right? So let's look at the obstacles that these women faced. Let's get this picture. All the women, all the 10 virgins faced the same obstacles, but the wise ones were able to overcome it. The foolish ones weren't, simply because of something they failed to do. Okay, the first obstacle here will be the bridegroom choosing to come late. Whether it was by design or by accident, he came late. Then the second thing is nature. They began to sleep. If they hadn't slept, maybe all 10 would have done something about the situation. So sleep, which is nature, became an obstacle that needed to be overcome. The third obstacle was darkness, another aspect of nature. Because if darkness had not set in, there would have been no need for lamps.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
You get me? So that also becomes an obstacle. Then you have maybe the biggest and the final one, the individuals themselves. Why was it that some of the women were able to think ahead
Good. Okay, foresight.
and some didn't? And mind you, Dr. Boyson, we said the fact that they were all 10 virgins was to paint a picture of like circumstances, right? And like call it
Situation in the
life
background.
experiences. So it was as if everybody was given a fair shot, right? In terms of background experience, in terms of life circumstances, right? So none of them could say, well, I didn't have the benefit of this kind of training for me to, think ahead of time or what have you. All of them were virgins, and it paints a picture of, as I said, if not identical, at least similar life experiences and circumstances. So nobody will have any excuse of not being exposed to the kind of hurdle or obstacle that came their way. So that's the four things, the four obstacles. And as I said, the literary conflict, therefore, would it be the individual? Would it be nature? Would it even be the bridegroom? So let's take them one by one. As we said, if you take nature, it was darkness and it was sleep, right? And then,
Yes, sir.
so when nature is the force that is coming at you, we call it cosmic conflict.
Yeah, you don't have
And
control.
here, nature comes knocking on everyone's door. Darkness, whether you like it or not, darkness will set in, light will come, and then darkness will come back. So this is painting a picture of everybody having that kind of experience or hurdle or obstacle in life. What do you do to maintain your light in the face of natural darkness? How do you extend the day so that you can be useful, you can work, even when nature does what nature does best? You getting me? That is the need to have a lamp, which means you must have something that keeps you going even when nature says no. And therefore, the oil becomes the stamina in us, because it is the oil that keeps the lamp burning.
Burning. Yeah, that's true.
You getting me? So indirectly, what we are being told in life, you need stamina, and stamina, you need it in order to be able to keep going even when natural obstacles and events stand in your way. And natural obstacles will stand in your way one way or the other. What do you do when nature decides to do what nature does? That's one thing. So the next thing we talk about, or we said, was the lateness of the bridegroom. So in conflict, we have two types of conflicts. You have what we call the internal and external conflict. An external conflict could come in the form, as we said, in the form of nature, cosmic conflict, or it could come in the form of another human being. If you are talking of fiction, you have the protagonist and you have the antagonist, right? So the antagonist, being a human being, right, will be a human becoming the source of conflict. Here, it is the bridegroom choosing to come late. Why? We don't know.
Intention.
We don't know. We just don't know why the bridegroom chose to come late. But Dr. Boison, it paints and tells us about something, right? That in life, we have to cross all our T's and dot all our I's, which is diligence, thinking ahead of time. You getting me? Not taking things for granted. Not leaving anything to chance. You getting me? Thinking through processes and procedures to make sure that everything that could go wrong, at least you've done due diligence to identify them. And if you do, make provisions for them. You getting me? That's a vital lesson for us. And heaven expects us to do such. That's all the test is trying to see. You getting me? And the point is, the fact that you have 5 of the virgins doing that is just to tell us it wasn't something that was out of the realm of possibility.
Okay.
You getting me? It was a matter of being a little diligent, thinking ahead. Therefore, those who put in the extra effort to dot all their I's and cross all their
T's, okay,
right, are more likely to strike gold. And those who don't are more likely to come up short. Very interesting. So here we have the conflict coming in the form of another human being. But Dr. Boison will soon realize that it may seem as if there was a human conflict, but there wasn't. And I will prove why. Now, then the as we said, darkness, and then you have nature, and then you have the bridegroom. Now, the next is what we call internal conflict. Internal conflict is when the opponent of the individual is the individual him or herself.
Or we call autoimmune.
You see, where the problem is coming from within.
Yeah.
So here, what was the internal conflict that faced the 10 women, the 10 virgins, right? The internal conflict had to do with that. One, they didn't know when the bridegroom was coming. Two, they were required to bring lambs. Three, it appears that the requirement was that each brought his or her own lamb, and there was no sharing tolerated. Because Dr. Boison, one could say, okay, the 5 women failed to plan, and so they didn't bring, but couldn't they have gone inside with the 5 women who brought extra supplies? But apparently, no. The Matthew doesn't have to tell us, but we can extract that particular data from this, that they had to go and buy their own oil, taking that risk. You get
okay,
it?
all right. Okay, let's rewind. Pastor, let's rewind. Okay, you were saying something like there could be the possibility of the other virgins going in with the smart or the wise ones, but looks like the requirement was that each had to bring her own lamb and oil as well. So there was no sharing.
No, there was no requirement for oil. The requirement was to bring your lamp, and the lamp had to burn.
Yes, so it presupposes that you have to bring something that will sustain the burn, which is the oil.
Thank you. You're getting me. And you see, you said statistics. In statistics, what we call probability theory, we have something called conditional probability, right? With conditional probability, you are asking yourself that what can take place before another thing takes place.
Okay.
If you have 2 or more events, you are looking at the probability of one event happening, given that another event has happened.
Yet.
You getting me? So here we come. The question we could ask: what was the probability that the the lamp would burn, given that oil was present. You getting me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The requirement was the lamp must burn, which means whether it was darkness or no darkness, light must be present.
That's true. Okay.
Are you getting the picture clear? Which
Yes,
is
sir.
also painting a picture about life and heaven. That if we say that light represents knowledge, right? And isn't it interesting that the woman, for lack 5 doing something and 5 omitting, to do something, was the reason the 5 who did something were described as wise, and the 5 that didn't do anything were described as foolish, which has to do with knowledge.
So
What did the
ignorance is
5
foolishness.
know for which they made provision? And what did the 5 foolish women didn't know, for which reason they didn't make any provision?
So
And
we can make an assumption that none of them had a prior experience for which they landed themselves.
Yes.
Somebody consider the wise ones. Maybe they've gone to an event before and had a prior experience where they were out of oil. So they said, next time something like that happens, we're going to be prepared. But Matthew didn't declare that to us, so we have no idea.
That's why we said the description given them, the adjective virgins, right, tells us that they had at least similar life experiences
Okay.
and circumstances. So if the 5 wise women had gone to a wedding before, it presupposes that these 5 foolish women had also gone to that wedding or similar weddings for them to know. You getting me? Because
But I think Matthew, may I add, if I sorry for interjecting, but I'm also thinking by Matthew using virgins, it also connotes the experience that these girls are all fresh girls without even any prior experience.
That again, that's why we are saying that at least like experiences or like circumstances. Okay. So whether all of them had experience or all of them didn't have experience, therefore, whatever distinguished the 5 from the others was not because of something the 5 wise women or 5 virgins had been exposed to that the other 5 had not been exposed to.
All right, let me rewind. Let me rewind a little bit. Let me just do a rewinding here. You know, those when we use the cassette tape, you listen to the music and it sweets your ears. Just put in your pen and rewind and go back if your tape went. All right, so the 5 wise virgins' refusal to share or give oil. What is that connotation?
Well, this is what they said. They said in verse 9, said, not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. What that means is the requirement was that light at the wedding must be constant and be present.
Burning.
You understand?
Yep.
At all times. So because you see, this is where countries and individuals, some fail and some succeed. And the wise woman said, we cannot share. Because if we share, let's say we each brought 1 gallon of oil, right? By sharing with the other 5, each will have a half gallon.
A gallon,
and all their lights will be burning. But if the event was going to last for 6 hours, it means that if each of the 10 had half gallons, there'll be light for only 3 hours. Because the requirement will be that all will have their lights, their lamps burning. You getting me? So you have 10 lamps with light emanating from them, but enough oil for only 3 hours. You getting me? As against 5 lamps with light emanating from them with oil to last for for the full 6 hours.
Okay,
Which
you
one
and
do
I.
you go for? You
Well,
getting that's the interesting takeaway from this. And one may say that maybe the foolish women, the foolish virgins, one of their obstacles, one of their external conflict will be these wise virgins. No, you getting me? The wise virgins were not supposed to be crisis insurance for the foolish virgins. And that is heaven trying to tell us something about this life. If Europe does due diligence, the developed world does due diligence, they undertake research, they do scientific discoveries, technological advancement, and they are able to come up with something, then we go there, we want them to share it with us for no cost. It doesn't happen that way. And this is heaven trying to make us understand that that's how heaven operates.
The smart ones always win, you know.
You getting me? And Dr. Boison, we made it the other time. These foolish virgins didn't make it to the wedding not because they sinned, not because they watched pornography, not because they slept with any man, not because they sinned, murdered, or whatever. It was that they were stupid. And the stupidity flowed from their inability to think ahead of time. Which is to say, they had the means, because Dr. Boison, watch it, they were able to go and buy the oil.
It was too late.
So it was not lack of means. It was lack of advanced thinking to buy the oil ahead of time.
So in other words, God gives you a brain or mind. If you refuse to use it, in this sense, ignorance, you are actually being stupid.
Ignorance is a sin.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ignorance is a sin. Don't forget, Dr. Boison. The Bible himself, God himself said, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. Lack of knowledge simply means we could put it, because of ignorance, my people perish. Ignorance is a killer. You getting me? Ignorance is a killer. So these foolish women ended up on the wrong side of heaven simply because of lack of foresight.
So, Pastor Akwa, let me ask you this question. This might sound silly. Okay, so does it mean that sometimes we pray for wisdom and we don't get it, or we don't pray for it, or we don't find a better way of getting wisdom to apply it?
Dr. Boison, the other time I received a clip, and the clip portrayed a trial of a pastor, I believe the Catholic pastor or whatever, on trial for his faith. And then the prosecutor asked him, do you believe in God? And if you believe in God, why the presence of evil, problems, obstacles, what have you? And then the pastor answered this way: God is not the author of evil. But he said, I prayed to God for wisdom, so he gave me problems to solve. I asked for compassion, so he gave me difficult people to work with.
Deal with. Okay.
I asked for wealth, so he gave me complex problems to solve, out of which I could get wealth. That is heaven's style. All these women, all these virgins, were given the chance to be at the wedding. All knew that they had to take their lamps with them. Dr. Boison, the point is, when they were going, each had oil in the lamp. When they went there, the lateness of the bridegroom affected all 10.
That could have even been intentional, to try them.
That is the nuggets we have to. I mean, those are the nuggets we have to extract from this. The lateness affected all 10, and because of that, all 10 succumbed to the wiles of nature.
The darkness.
All 10 slumbered and slept. When the bridegroom came at midnight and the cry went out, all 10 heard it. So it means that all 10 were given the chance to use the data collected. So what made the difference between the wise and the foolish? It was the wise ability to think ahead of time and to prepare for it. You getting me? That is the bottom line for this. So let's now land on this question of the conflict. Dr. Boison, at the end of the day, the conflict of the 5, or call it all 10, was a battle between one and him or herself. Dr. Boison, this is the secret. At the end of the day, all external conflicts boil down to internal conflict.
Internal.
Yes, let me explain. You see, if a mountain stands in the way of two hikers with the same ability, right? Same training and what have you. If one was able to climb and one couldn't, it wouldn't be the fault of the mountain. It would be the fault
of the
one who couldn't climb. And where would that come from? The inability of the person to summon the extra energy in him or herself to overcome what is opposing him or her. Are you getting me? And I always give the example of my daughter. I told you the other time, Dr. Boison, my last daughter, when she was 1 year old, barely 1 year, and she had just started walking, my daughter's favorite hobby was sliding on her tummy from the top floor to the middle level on the stairs. I think 14 stairs. And here was I, a parent. I knew if the unexpected happens and my daughter landed on the bare floor on her head, that would be her end. And we counseled our daughter several times against it. She wouldn't hear. So what did we do as parents? We bought the barrier. And so we put the barrier there. So whenever we were upstairs and she sneaked out, she wouldn't be able to do her thing. Dr. Boison, one Sunday, we went to church and came, and both of us were feeling sleepy. So we put the barrier there and we went to sleep. I heard a giant laughter. And so I woke up. Dr. Boison, I woke up and I thought I knew the laughter was coming from my daughter. So I was looking somewhere in the bedroom and she wasn't there. And so I went to the children's bedroom. She wasn't there either. So I went and I saw that she was laughing from the middle level. And I said, how did this girl do it? And the barrier
was still there, intact.
Was still there. So I quickly went for her, removed the barrier, and put the barrier back, and then went inside with her. 2 minutes later, she came out, the barrier. So I followed her, and my daughter had learned to climb through the opening in the side rail, and so make nonsense of the barrier there. And then she went doing her hobby, sliding. And that taught me a lesson.
You got played.
That all the 4 days she was crying for us to remove the barrier was that she hadn't summoned in herself the ability
to go around the problem.
That external barrier. And so that barrier became a barrier and remained a barrier as long as she hadn't found within herself the ability to overcome that barrier, whether it was there or it was not there. So the day she was able to figure out a way to still do her thing with the barrier in place, that barrier ceased to be a barrier. Dr. Boison, I felt like an idiot keeping the barrier there. You getting me? So I just removed the barrier. I had to remove the barrier and only keep my eyes on her. And what did I just see? A barrier remains a barrier as long as the individual has not found it within himself to go around it. That is the secret of life. So an external barrier is only an indication of an internal barrier.
That's deep. Wow.
You get me? This was the problem of these women. Their conflict was not the bridegroom, was not nature in the form of darkness, was not nature in the form of sleepiness, was not another human being in the form of the bridegroom, nor the other wise women. Their conflict was within themselves, their inability to think ahead of time. Africa, our problem is not lack of Europe's selfishness or whatever. Our problem is our inability to summon the mental energy to make use of the resources God has deposited in us.
When are we going to get that reawakening? How is it going to happen? I mean,
it will happen. With God, there is no promotion to the next class until and unless you pass the test.
But it's about time.
Well, that's God. Until Jesus comes and then remix and reshapes the whole world, if we have to mark time, that's what it's going to be. And people like you and I, we are wising up. We are not going to keep marking time.
Yeah, because the
You
way to
first
prosper,
think.
the way to prosperity, as I found, is solving problems. Like, for instance, even if you take Facebook, somebody said, Mark just said that one day, so you know what, I'm going to connect my friends and people across the world by making Facebook available, and people can connect. People you have, your friends you haven't met since you left Legon, now you can easily connect to them by power of social media, Facebook, and all that. It's just a matter of being able to, resolve problems or prepare. It's like we've been marking time for a while. I mean, all of us inclusive. I mean, when we were in high schools, most of us said we didn't like maths or we didn't like certain subject. Not that the subject was too difficult because others were doing it, but like you said, it was all a matter of internal conflict. The
Yeah.
day you realize that, oh, after all, maths is not that it's a matter of just memorizing formulas and just applying that if I want the area of this is length and breadth. Once you figure that out, like Droma did, she was able to just go, and that's why I believe she was laughing. Said, my daddy thought he's smart, but I have just beaten him up.
I mean, from that day, I was like a toy in her hand. She could just do anything, and I was watching it. I mean, and Dr. Boison, that's how God works. And I mean, for us to learn, Dr. Boison, all this test is telling us is that heaven expects results. Heaven is a place with schedule, with events, with expectations. If we think heaven is a static place, because Jesus used human events to represent what heaven is like.
Pastor Cross, speaking about heaven, I know some people don't even believe in God. Some people don't even believe in religion, all that stuff. But I mean, you and I know born again, and we understand heaven, like you're saying. Is that the same thing going to happen during the rapture? Because Jesus has already warned us what is going to happen, and in the rapture day, are still people going to say we were not prepared, we were not told, because it's going to happen in the twinkling of an eye.
That's what he said in verse 13. He said, "Watch. For you neither know the time
Nor
the hour when the Son of Man shall return." Watch, which means be vigilant. Be vigilant, be alert. And alertness simply means that you have your data with you. You know what is expected, what should happen when. If anything happens that is not expected, you want to deal with it. You get it? And that's what makes some countries rich, some individuals rich, and some countries poor, and some individuals poor. Because Dr. Boison, as I said, all these 10 virgins had similar life experiences and circumstances. They were all invited to the wedding. When the bridegroom tarried, it affected all of them. When the cry came, all 10 of them heard. So what made it sad that some could go in and some couldn't go in? That's why when you come to life, when it rains on everybody, the rich, the poor, the tall, the short, the fat, the
black and white,
skinny, and what have you. You get me? Everybody was born, everybody will die. Hunger strikes everybody. When there is a volcano, it affects everybody. When the sun shines, it shines on everybody. So what makes others thick and others wilt in the face of circumstances?
Wow. You are making me feel guilty too much.
That's what Jesus said here. So what is the probability, Dr. Boison, that I will make it when the day comes? It depends on my preparedness.
Yeah, we have to start now.
Thinking ahead. Thinking ahead. Thinking ahead. That is
wow.
the bottom line.
That is the motto of one of Ghana's prominent high school in Fansipim, also known as Kwaboche. I had the privilege of working on that campus some time ago. Their motto is Jane Shekwan, always think ahead. Don't just think for the now. think ahead, project into the future, make preparation for the future. If you are told just come with a lamp, remember, if I'm just taking a lamp, what else will be needed in case the bridegroom tarries? Always plan ahead and have enough supplies. The other day I was thinking about, people said United States, you never run out of water. But some cities and states
Jackson.
yes, Jackson is suffering from. So it came to me, I was thinking about, how Ghana, we used to have that thing we call Ankara. What is that Ankara? That gallon
the overhead tanks.
Yeah, we fill water in,
Yeah.
Here, who uses that? Nobody. But I went to Tennessee this weekend. I was thinking, what? I think I should get Ankara and fill water in just in case water runs. I mean, we don't get taps being closed or anything. There's always 24/7. But then with what happened to Jackson, I said, wow, so by the time I need Ankara and store some water just in case it happens. We always have to think ahead. Well, listeners, it's been my pleasure having Pastor Akon as usual in the studio. Uncle Mas couldn't make it because he was tied up in some other obligation in Ghana. But tonight, Pastor Akon has nailed it down. He's stood in for all of us, and he began by sharing with us the subject of the scripture we read. He gave us the stakeholders, the literal conflict, and he alerted us on the alertness itself, what light represented, what the oil represented, vigilance, having stamina, having foresight, which is very important, because if you just plan for today, you are not going anywhere. My wife keeps telling me when we came to California, I think it was the reign of President Clinton, he was saying something about, we are projecting 20 years from now. He said, what? We are just in 97, 98. Who is thinking about 20 years? And the things that he taught in those years are now beginning to come to pass. So if you just think for today, you will rise, as the professor has said. Pastor, thank you very much. It's always been a pleasure sharing this experience. And listeners, you're not going to get this in Bible school. They won't teach you this thing in Bible school, or they will just show you the scriptures and then you take your quizzes and you pass and you become your pastor and all that. But some of these golden nuggets can only be obtained on Era One when Pastor Akon sits in his chair. Pastor, thank you very much. I'll see you again next week. Have a good one and say hi to the family. All right, now, people, share, go to Facebook, go to YouTube, pull the transcript, listen over and share with your friends. All right. See you again next week, Pastor. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, beautiful people of Ghana. This is Banahine Specialist Hospital. We are so excited to announce to our people Ghana that we are finally opened and we are accepting patients. At Banahine Specialist Hospital, our extraordinary physicians and nurses are here to provide a high-quality medical service to our extraordinary patients. Our services include primary care services, maternal, neonatal, and pediatric services. We also have an in-house pharmacy. We have x-ray and laboratory services available to you. Come to us for all your healthcare needs and you will be happy you did, because we believe that health is wealth. Thank you and stay blessed.
C'est mon père, ça me fait bien tiens. Tu me fais dire non kotu, Era One Radio. C'est mon père, tu me fais bien tiens. Tu me fais dire non kotu.